In the fractured mosaic of a tropical reef flat, where sunlight filters through tide-warped water and flickers across coral fragments like glass shards catching fire, the seafloor seems frozen in still life. Coral rubble lies heaped in silence. Shells cracked by old battles rest undisturbed. Sand, laced with coarse gravel, drifts slowly in shallow pulses, moved by invisible undercurrents. But something is watching. Something is waiting. And even when you stare directly at it, you will not see it. You will not. The stonefish is there, nestled among the reef debris like a fragment of dead coral, an ugly rock fused to the environment. It is motionless, camouflaged, perfect, and lethally armed. Among the most venomous fish alive, the stonefish has not evolved to chase, stalk, or intimidate. It has done something far more insidious. It has disappeared. Its skin isn't just colored to match the reef. It is textured to match erosion itself. Algae grows on it. Crusts form. Bacterial films lend a dull, mottled sheen that mimics coral decay. It doesn't mimic life. It mimics detritus, the unwanted background noise of the reef. Its body is squat, warty, and lumpy, with dorsal ridges and pectoral flaps that break up its outline. Even its eyes, recessed and shaded by fleshy protrusions, seem to vanish into the skull. This fish has become negative space, a master of biological invisibility sculpted not by speed or intelligence, but by absolute stillness. And then something swims too close. The stonefish does not lunge. It does not coil like a spring. It fires like a piston. Using a lightning-fast suction mechanism powered by its buccal cavity, it opens its mouth and creates a sudden vacuum, pulling in water and prey in less than 15 milliseconds. That's faster than a blink. Its jaws, previously pressed to the sand, snap upward and outward with hydraulic precision. The prey, usually a small fish or crustacean, is swallowed whole, often without even realizing what happened. No chase, no resistance. One breath, and it's over. But the feeding mechanism is not what earns the stonefish its fearful reputation. That lies in its defense, a row of 13 stout dorsal spines, each tipped with venomous grooves and sheathed in glandular tissue. When the fish is threatened, usually by an accidental footstep, these spines erect automatically. The pressure of contact drives them into flesh, and venom is injected through an internal compression system. The effect on the human body is catastrophic. The venom contains a potent mix of proteins that destroy tissue, attack the nervous system, and disrupt the heart. Pain is instantaneous, severe, and radiates through the limb in waves of burning intensity. Victims often report an overwhelming urge to amputate the affected area. In untreated cases, especially when spines pierce the chest or abdomen, death can occur in under an hour. And the worst part, it doesn't look like it should hurt you. It doesn't flare its fins. It doesn't hiss. It simply exists, as it has for millions of years, hiding in plain sight, offering no signal until it's too late. The stonefish isn't a predator in the cinematic sense. It's an executioner with a veil over its face. Its ecological niche is shaped not only by its predation strategy, but by its resilience. Stonefish can survive out of water for over 24 hours, thanks to their ability to absorb oxygen through their skin and gill slits when moist. In the intertidal zones of mangroves and reef flats, where pools dry and rehydrate with the tides, this endurance is crucial. A fish that cannot move may as well be dead, but the stonefish is not immobile by weakness. It is immobile by choice, and it survives because it does nothing better than anything else in the sea. It's not just humans that fall for its trickery. Seabirds, sea snakes, and even large predatory fish have been stung or choked to death after attempting to consume one. The venom deters even the boldest hunter, and those that survive do not make the same mistake again. Evolution has hardwired a primal avoidance into anything that has ever learned to associate stonefish-shaped rubble with pain. Curiously, the stonefish's biology also allows for paradox. Despite its grotesque appearance and defensive lethality, it is preyed upon, albeit rarely, by larger sharks and rays. Some of these predators have developed strategies to attack from the rear, or bite quickly enough to avoid full envenomation. But these are the exceptions. Most creatures, including humans, don't even know the stonefish is there until they're bleeding. Its reproductive strategy is similarly cloaked in mystery. Males and females engage in external fertilization, releasing eggs and sperm into the water column. The fertilized eggs drift with currents until they hatch into planktonic larvae, tiny and defenseless in a world of micro-predators. Those that survive must find substrate quickly and begin their lifelong performance, sink into the background. Wait, strike, repeat. Despite its ancient lineage, the stonefish faces growing challenges in the Anthropocene. Warming oceans, reef degradation, and habitat loss affect the very camouflage it relies upon. Coral rubble is replaced with algae mats or dead zones. Pollution clouds water with sediments that alter visibility, even for the unseen. Tourists, unaware of its presence, are often injured during reef walks or shallow snorkeling. Antivenom is effective but often unavailable in remote regions, making the stonefish a persistent threat in tropical marine tourism. Yet it does not attack. It does not pursue. The stonefish is a relic of a different kind of predation, one where evolution does not reward action, but inaction. It has refined the art of invisibility to such a degree that it no longer needs to participate in the arms race of speed or strength. It simply is, and being mistaken for the seafloor is its greatest weapon. As the sun dips low over the reef flat and the tide begins to return, fish stir once again in the channels between coral outcrops. Shadows stretch long, water glints gold, and somewhere unseen, the stonefish watches without eyes that move. The gravel beside it shifts. A blenny darts too close. There is no warning, only absence. Because in this part of the sea, death doesn't chase you. It waits exactly where you thought it was safe to stand. In the labyrinthine sprawl of a coral reef, where every crack leads into shadow and every overhang conceals more than it shows, there exists a different kind of predator. It does not prowl the open blue. It does not chase nor patrol. Instead, it waits, coiled in silence, pressed into the folds of limestone like muscle inside a fossil. A pair of yellow eyes gleams from the darkness, scanning through a slit no wider than a child's palm. This is not just a shelter. It is a launch chamber. And what lurks inside is among the reef's most efficient ambush predators, the moray eel. From a distance, the moray may appear serpentine, a thick-bodied ribbon of muscle patterned like decaying leaf litter or volcanic glass. Its mouth gapes rhythmically in what many mistake for a threat display. But this is not aggression. It is respiration. Morays lack the operculum, the gill cover, found in most bony fish, and so they must actively pump water through their gills by opening and closing their mouths. This pulsing motion, combined with their stillness, creates an illusion. They seem to vibrate with anticipation, like a spring held in place by instinct alone. The moray's body is uniquely adapted for life within the reef's tight architecture. Lacking scales and covered in a thick mucus layer, their skin is both flexible and protective, resistant to abrasions from coral and rock. They have no paired pectoral or pelvic fins, enabling them to slither through gaps and holes no other predator of their size could enter. And that's the key. Morays have evolved not just to survive in the reef, but as the reef, an extension of its cracks and teeth. But it is the strike that defines them. When a fish swims within range, the moray explodes from the shadows with startling speed. Its head shoots forward in a blur, jaws open, and in that instant, its skull anatomy reveals its evolutionary trick. A second set of jaws, the pharyngeal jaws, shoot forward from within the throat to seize and drag the prey backward. These internal jaws, muscular and toothed, are unique among fish and function independently of the outer jaws. While most predators must rely on suction or a tongue to maneuver food into the esophagus, the moray's inner jaws grab and pull. This is not just feeding, it's a biological kidnapping. This entire sequence, the lunge, the bite, the pharyngeal assault, can occur within a single second. The prey, often stunned from the initial impact, has no time to flee. One moment it swims past what looks like just another hole in the reef. The next, it is locked in a two-jawed clamp that drags it into the stone like a thread into a needle. Most fish die before they realize they were targeted. This dual jaw system is not just a predatory adaptation, it's a workaround for a design limitation. Because of their narrow heads and inflexible skulls, morays are unable to create the negative pressure most fish use to suction feed. Instead, evolution built them a mechanical solution, Their pharyngeal jaws evolved from modified gill arches, repurposed over millennia into a hidden trapdoor of muscle and teeth. They are the closest thing the natural world has produced to the alien anatomy of science fiction. Yet the moray eel is not a mindless killer. Within its territory, it plays a more complex role, both feared and oddly cooperative. In several regions, including the Red Sea and Indo-Pacific reefs, moray eels have been observed forming hunting partnerships with roving coral groupers. The grouper, unable to chase prey into crevices, will signal the moray by shaking its head or body in a distinctive dance. If the moray joins, they hunt together. The grouper flushes prey into holes, and the eel drives them back out into the open. Both benefit. This is not instinct. It is strategy. Interspecies collaboration based on learned behavior and memory. Territorially, morays are solitary but consistent. A single eel may occupy the same crevice for months or even years, using it as both a lair and ambush site. At night, some species emerge to patrol the reef, swimming with snake-like grace over the substrate in search of crustaceans or small fish. But even then, their movements are deliberate, their posture coiled for defense. Morays are not built for speed over distance. Their success comes from knowing when not to move. For humans, moray eels inspire mixed reactions. Divers often fear their gaping mouths and sudden lunges, but attacks are rare and usually provoked. However, when morays do bite, the injuries can be severe. Their teeth, curved and needle-sharp, are designed not to crush, but to pierce. Some species, like the giant moray, can grow over 3 meters long and deliver bites strong enough to sever fingers. The mucus coating their skin is sometimes laced with toxins or anticoagulants, increasing the risk of infection. In feeding interactions, such as tourist hand-feeding scenarios, morays often confuse fingers for fish, striking with brutal efficiency. Yet for all their fearsome qualities, morays serve crucial ecological roles. By controlling populations of small reef fish, crustaceans and cephalopods, they help maintain the balance of the reef's complex food web. Their presence in reef systems is an indicator of structural health, a sign that the cracks, tunnels and shaded microhabitats they require still persist in the architecture of coral systems increasingly threatened by bleaching and erosion. In aquaria, morays reveal another truth. They are escape artists. Their flexible bodies and intelligence allow them to navigate piping systems, squeeze through impossibly tight gaps, and even push lids open. Tales abound of captive morays slithering from one tank to another to feed, or disappearing entirely for days before reappearing unharmed. These are not the behaviors of simple fish. They are the actions of something ancient and calculating. As the reef begins to dim under the shifting light of the afternoon tide, the moray retreats deeper into its lair. The passing fish no longer warrant pursuit. It has fed. It has watched. It is once again part of the wall, a mouth that breathes, a muscle curled in waiting, a living guillotine ready to reset. In the reef, most predators are hunters. The moray is a trap, and the trap never sleeps. The reef is breathing, not in metaphor but in reality, surging as the tide pulls nutrients through a forest of coral limbs, anemones and waving fans of algae. Light flickers between crevices. Shadows ripple across sand. Nothing here is truly still, not even the rocks. In fact, especially not the rocks, because somewhere in the flickering mosaic, one of them is alive, watching, adapting, waiting. What appears to be a flat coral outcrop suddenly twitches, liquefies and peels upward as if poured from a hidden pitcher. Arms unfurl. Color drains and reshapes. Texture shifts from knobby to smooth, dark to luminous. The transformation takes less than a second. You are looking at Octopus vulgaris, or perhaps Octopus cyanea, depending on the latitude. And if you didn't know it was there until just now, that's exactly how it prefers things. Few creatures in the marine world are as persistently underestimated as the octopus. It doesn't sport the fang-lined jaws of a barracuda, the serrated grin of a reef shark, or the obvious armor of a crustacean. It's soft, squishy, and wholly unprotected by a skeleton. It bleeds blue, uses 3 hearts to pump its copper-based blood, and dies shortly after reproduction. It is, in evolutionary terms, fragile. And yet, no predator in the reef is more unpredictable, more elusive, or more flexible in body or behavior. The octopus has mastered invisibility not by vanishing into space, but by erasing the distinction between itself and its environment. It doesn't hide, it becomes. At the heart of this mastery is its skin, a living screen composed of complex cellular layers that function as both sensor and display. The outermost layer contains chromatophores, tiny elastic sacs filled with pigment, each surrounded by radial muscles that expand and contract to reveal or conceal color. Beneath them lie iridophores and leucophores, reflective cells that scatter light or bounce it back in shifting wavelengths, producing shimmers of metallic blue, green, or silver. These cells, working in concert, allow an octopus to match not only color, but pattern, brightness, and even polarization of light. But color is only the beginning. An octopus's skin is studded with papillae, muscular hydrostats that can change the surface texture from smooth to spiky, bumpy, or wrinkled in seconds. By raising or flattening these structures, it can mimic the pitted texture of coral, the grain of sand, or the tangled strands of algae. Combined with full body posture control, the ability to squeeze, coil, flatten, or elongate its arms, the octopus becomes not just camouflaged, but unrecognizable. It may appear as a mound of rubble, a patch of seaweed, or a vacant shell, altering its entire profile to deceive the shape-detecting instincts of predators and prey. This ability is not reflex, it is neurological choreography. The octopus has the most complex nervous system of any invertebrate, with over 500 million neurons, more than some small mammals. But unlike vertebrates, most of these neurons are not in the brain. They're distributed through the arms, allowing each limb to operate semi-independently, sampling the environment, solving tasks, or even initiating motion without direct brain input. The result is decentralized intelligence, a creature that can react and adapt across its entire body simultaneously. The effectiveness of this strategy becomes most apparent during predation. The octopus does not chase. It does not blunder into the open sea. It watches from the margin, calculating distance, current, and opportunity. When ready, it moves with silent precision, a glide more than a swim, arms tucked and body flattened to reduce drag. It creeps toward its target, often using a pale ripple pattern to resemble light flickering on sand. Then, with explosive speed, it lunges. Arms shoot outward in all directions, webbing stretches like a net, and the entire prey item, crab, shrimp, or fish, is enveloped in a tangle of suckers and muscle. The kill is efficient. A hard beak, the only rigid part of the octopus's body, delivers a bite to the softest part of the prey, injecting a cocktail of neurotoxins and enzymes that paralyze and begin digestion externally. In seconds, what was once a living animal is liquefied into a slurry, ready to be slurped. This too is part of the octopus's strategy. Minimize energy, maximize control. In an ecosystem where almost everything has armor, the octopus outsmarts it all. Yet even more astonishing is the octopus's use of camouflage as a tool for manipulation. In studies, octopuses have been seen to adopt high-contrast patterns when approached by curious predators, often displaying patterns associated with other dangerous animals. Some mimic venomous lionfish by raising two arms in a fin-like posture while trailing others behind. Others flatten their bodies and flicker with bands of dark and light, creating a strobe effect that disorients smaller prey. This is not camouflage for hiding. It is deception as deterrent. A theater of the reef with the octopus as playwright, director, and lead actor. In some parts of the Indo-Pacific, this role takes on even more elaborate forms. The mimic octopus, Thormoctopus mimicus, uses its entire body to impersonate venomous sea snakes, lionfish, and flatfish. It changes its gait, arm position, and color to not just blend but impersonate. It turns camouflage into impersonation, defense into trickery, and behind it all, a hyper-intelligent brain records the results and adjusts for next time. But this genius comes at a cost. The octopus is short-lived. Most species live less than 2 years, some only months. Their reproductive cycle is terminal. Males die after mating, females after brooding. In that brief window of life, they must learn, adapt, and perfect their deception. And they do. Young octopuses raised in laboratory conditions without any environmental input still learn to camouflage themselves when introduced to natural surroundings. The skill is innate, but refined through experience. In the shifting light of the reef's dusk, as diurnal fish tuck into crevices and nocturnal predators emerge, the octopus recedes once more. Not into a den, but into texture, into contrast, into mimicry. It slinks beneath a rock and changes again, its skin becoming blotched, ridged, shadowed. From above, there is no octopus, just another corner of reef, just another empty spot in a world that's never truly empty. Because in the ocean, power isn't always loud or large. Sometimes it's silent, soft-bodied and watching, always watching, until it decides not just to appear, but to transform. The reef's outer fringe pulses with change. Here, where the sandy slope dips away from coral gardens into pale blue haze, light bends and breaks in ever-shifting curtains. The terrain becomes uncertain, neither open water nor structure, not quite desert and not quite forest. In this liminal space, something hovers above the bottom like a thought just beneath the surface of consciousness. It isn't swimming, it's hovering. Motionless, neutral buoyant, neither rising nor sinking. Its body flickers, not just in color but in rhythm, as if coded with a silent language. A band of black ripples across its side like a shadow given direction. Another sweep of silver pulses down its arms. Then again, and again. The effect is disorienting, like staring into a moving flame. You are looking at a cuttlefish, the closest thing nature has made to a living strobe light. Cuttlefish are cephalopods, like their better-known cousins, the octopus and squid. But unlike either, they evolved in a delicate middle ground, not as reef dwellers pressed into rock crevices, nor as open-water sprinters. They are creatures of the in-between, capable of both sudden ambush and ghostly retreat. And they have mastered not just invisibility, but illusion. Where octopuses vanish into background, cuttlefish broadcast. Their language is light, their grammar motion, and their vocabulary is encoded across millions of cells capable of producing real-time visual effects that no other predator can match. The skin of a cuttlefish is alive in a way few other animals can match. Its outer layer is packed with chromatophores, pigment sacs that expand or contract to show reds, browns, and yellows. Beneath that lie iridophores and leucophores, reflecting cells that shimmer iridescent greens, blues, or stark whites depending on the angle of light. But this isn't simply decoration. These cells are controlled independently across the entire body, allowing the cuttlefish to produce waves of color, pulsing bars, expanding spots, or even full-body strobe effects. Each of these visual tricks serves a purpose, sometimes to confuse, sometimes to communicate, and sometimes to seduce. Nowhere is this more dramatic than in predation. Unlike many ambush hunters that rely on stillness, the cuttlefish uses motion. When a small fish enters range, unaware of the threat because the cuttlefish is often hovering above rather than pursuing from behind, the predator doesn't pounce immediately. Instead, it begins to flicker. Bands of contrast roll across its mantle. The skin around the eyes pulses with rapidly alternating black and white. The effect is mesmerizing, almost psychedelic, as if the fish were staring into a screensaver built to override its visual cortex. And this may not be far from the truth. Some researchers believe the cuttlefish's hypnotic display acts as a neural disruptor, scrambling the fish's instinctive escape response, rendering it momentarily paralyzed by confusion. The strike, when it comes, is both sudden and precise. Two tentacles, not arms, but long, prehensile feeding tentacles stored in sheaths beneath the arms, shoot outward like harpoons. At their tips, pads lined with suckers grab the prey and draw it back into a ring of arms. Once restrained, the prey is bitten with a hard parrot-like beak and envenomated with a toxin that begins digestion. It is a surgical kill. No tearing, no thrashing. The prey never stood a chance, not because it was slower, but because it stopped thinking. But the story doesn't stop at predation. The cuttlefish's chromatic genius also fuels its social behavior. During mating, males put on stunning displays of color and postural exaggeration to attract females. Some even perform what's known as split signaling. One side of the body flashes dominant, aggressive patterns toward rival males, while the opposite side displays soft, inviting signals to a potential mate. This ability to send two different messages at once, depending on the viewer's perspective, is not just rare. It's unprecedented. In some species, smaller males adopt another form of deception, female mimicry. By disguising themselves with feminine coloration and submissive posture, they slip past larger, aggressive males guarding females and sneak in to mate. These sneaker males are often successful, and some populations even show balancing reproductive success between dominant and deceptive strategies, a living example of how evolution tolerates dishonesty, so long as it works. Behind all of this lies one of the most extraordinary brains in the invertebrate world. The cuttlefish nervous system is highly centralized, with a large brain-to-body ratio comparable to birds and mammals. They can solve mazes, remember shapes, and learn from experience. Their eyes, crescent-shaped and capable of detecting polarized light, are tuned not just to color but to contrast, texture, and angle. They see the world not in sharp lines, but in gradients and flows, which may explain how they manipulate their skin with such intuitive precision. They are not matching color so much as translating energy, responding to shifts in tone, brightness, and movement the way a jazz musician responds to sound. And yet, despite all of this brilliance, the cuttlefish is vulnerable. Like many cephalopods, it lives fast and dies young. Most cuttlefish only survive for 2 years. Their reproductive strategy is terminal, a single, intense breeding season followed by rapid senescence. After laying hundreds of black, grape-like eggs in reef crevices or seaweed beds, females enter a steep biological decline. Their skin pales, their reflexes dull, and their hunger fades. They become listless, floating near the surface until predators, or the current, take them. In this short window of life, they must learn everything anew. There is no parental instruction, no inherited behavior. Each cuttlefish must discover the rules of light and illusion from scratch, and they do. Juvenile cuttlefish, barely an inch long, already show the ability to camouflage, hunt, and communicate using light, an innate intelligence encoded in muscle, skin, and nerve. They are also ecological engineers. As mid-level predators, cuttlefish help regulate populations of shrimp, crabs, and small fish, while serving as prey for sharks, dolphins, and seals. Their presence and absence ripples through the food web. And yet, because they're so cryptic, so fleeting, we often don't even notice they're gone. As the tide shifts and the light angles through the water into deeper indigo, the cuttlefish descends once more. Its skin dims to match the seafloor. The waves of light stop. Its arms fold in. Now it is nothing, just a patch of sand. A shadow beneath a drifting clump of algae. Waiting. Watching. Ready to perform. Because in the ocean, not all predators hide by staying still. Some disappear by dazzling you, blinding your brain with beauty just long enough to strike. At the seam where jungle meets tide, where tangled mangrove roots rise from the muck like skeletal fingers, and the air hums with the breathless heat of the tropics, the water runs thick and slow. Estuarine silence hangs here like a fog, broken only by the distant rustle of wings, the drip of condensation from broadleaf trees, and the occasional snap of something below the surface. But what appears still is not empty. Beneath this dark mirror, a predator older than the forest itself is waiting. It doesn't need to move. It simply floats, a pair of eyes, amber, unblinking, tracks every ripple from just above the waterline, nostrils tilted to catch scent with each breath. No other part of the body breaks the surface, just gaze and breath. That's all it takes. The rest, 600 kilos of armor, muscle, and death, is submerged in silence. This is the domain of the saltwater crocodile, and its genius lies not in motion, but in perfect stillness. Saltwater crocodiles, or salties, as they're known in Australia, are the largest living reptiles on Earth, with mature males frequently exceeding 5 meters in length and reaching weights of over a ton. They are apex predators across much of Southeast Asia, Northern Australia, and the Indo-Pacific, patrolling rivers, deltas, estuaries, and even coral fringes of remote atolls. But they are not built for pursuit. They do not need speed to dominate. Instead, they are living examples of a predation strategy that dates back over 200 million years. Ambush from the surface. While most aquatic predators attack from below or behind, the crocodile uses its own reflection as a hunting blind. Evolution has tuned the saltwater crocodile's body to be both invisible and explosive. Its eyes and nostrils are positioned high on its head, allowing it to keep the rest of its body submerged as it scans its environment. Its body profile is flat and low, with osteoderms, bony scutes, lining the back and sides like medieval armor. These ridged plates break up its silhouette among floating vegetation or mangrove roots, making it nearly impossible to distinguish from driftwood or a fallen branch. The tail, muscular and laterally compressed, doubles as a propulsion engine and rudder, giving the animal sudden speed without needing to shift its body. When it's not moving, the crocodile's skin can collect algae, dirt and biofilm, biological camouflage that further conceals its outline in the water. But make no mistake, this stillness is a deception. When the moment comes, it will move with terrifying speed. Crocodiles can accelerate from a dead float to a lunging strike in less than half a second. Their jaws, lined with 60 conical interlocking teeth, snap shut with a bite force exceeding 3,500 pounds per square inch, the most powerful of any living vertebrate. Unlike big cats or sharks, crocodiles do not slice. They crush, clamp and hold. Prey is pulled beneath the surface, drowned, and if necessary dismembered using the infamous death roll, a spinning maneuver that turns the crocodile's own body into a rotary saw. Their ambush strategy is aided by their sensory adaptations. The skin around a crocodile's jaws and face is dotted with dome pressure receptors, capable of detecting vibrations as subtle as a drop of water landing meters away. These sensors operate in low visibility, giving crocodiles an edge in turbid waters or beneath the cover of floating mats and overhanging foliage. Their eyes, meanwhile, possess a tapetum lucidum, a layer of tissue behind the retina that reflects light and enhances night vision. Even in moonlight or under dense jungle canopy, they can track movement with precision that rivals any nocturnal predator. Crocodiles are territorial, solitary, and extraordinarily patient. A single individual may patrol a stretch of river for decades, returning to favored basking spots, ambush points, and breeding sites with eerie fidelity. Juveniles remain in the shallows for safety, feeding on insects and small fish, but as they grow, their prey broadens to include birds, turtles, monkeys, wild pigs, deer, buffalo, and occasionally humans. Unlike sharks, which tend to sample unfamiliar prey and often retreat after one bite, crocodiles commit fully. They are not inquisitive attackers. They are decision makers. And when they strike, it's with lethal intention. In estuarine systems, crocodiles exploit tidal rhythms to move unseen. They ride outgoing flows like drifting logs, conserving energy while covering distance. At high tide, they move silently into flooded forests or human settlements, navigating with deceptive ease through submerged walkways and ditches. This ability to transition between salt and fresh water, a rarity among reptiles, has allowed saltwater crocodiles to spread across thousands of kilometers, even crossing open ocean channels. Their kidneys and salt glands regulate their internal chemistry, letting them thrive in environments most reptiles would find toxic. Crocodile courtship and breeding is another area where patience masks calculation. Males bellow and slap the water with their jaws to establish dominance and attract mates. Once paired, females construct nest mounds from vegetation and mud, laying 40 to 90 eggs and guarding them with aggressive vigilance. The temperature of the nest determines the sex of the hatchlings. Warmer nests yield males, cooler ones females. When the eggs hatch, the mother carries the babies gently in her jaws to the water's edge. It's one of the few moments where tenderness eclipses terror, yet even then, mortality is high. Predators, cannibalistic males, and territorial adults make survival a roll of the genetic dice. And yet, for all their power, crocodiles are vulnerable to one thing: underestimation. Humans, especially those unfamiliar with their habits, often misjudge their presence or mistake the still water for empty water. Saltwater crocodiles can hold their breath for over an hour, hiding beneath floating hyacinths or within sunken logs until a swimmer or fisherman ventures too close. In regions like northern Australia and Papua New Guinea, crocodile attacks are not random. They are calculated events based on days, sometimes weeks, of observation. The victim never sees the predator. There is no splash, just a rush of brown water, a twist, and silence. In the fading light of the mangrove dusk, with cicadas tuning their chorus and egrets roosting on gnarled branches, the crocodile floats once more. Unmoving, part log, part river, part myth, its eye scans the inlet, its body held perfectly still in the skin of a current. A heron steps onto the shallows. There is a moment, thin, breathless, invisible, where nothing happens. Then everything happens at once. Because in the crocodile's world, Motion is a weapon best saved for the last second, and until that moment arrives, it is the stillness itself that kills. The waters here are shallow, almost innocent, a warm coastal fringe lapped by gentle waves, where sunlight penetrates easily and dances across the sand in kaleidoscopic ripples. Children splash in the shallows. Snorkelers drift lazily above the reef fringe. The sea is clear, inviting, deceptively calm. But just beyond the tide's reach, in the liminal zone where reef gives way to open water, something almost imperceptible is moving. It doesn't swim, doesn't ripple. It pulses. Its body is glass. Not metaphorically, but biologically. Light passes through it, bending, refracting, reframing the creature as nothing more than distortion. And yet it is very real. Its tentacles drift for meters, thin as hairs, barely visible even under magnification. It is the trickery, the box jellyfish, one of the ocean's most efficient killers and one of its least seen. There is no armor here, no teeth, no brain in the traditional sense. The box jellyfish is not a creature of brute strength or speed. It is built around a different principle: undetectability. Its body is composed mostly of mesoglea, a gelatinous substance that is nearly identical in density and refractive index to seawater. That means light does not bounce off it the way it would on flesh or shell. Instead, it bends through it. This is not camouflage by coloration. It is optical evasion. The box jellyfish doesn't just blend in. It almost ceases to exist from a visual standpoint. Even seasoned divers can pass within inches and never register its presence. The bell of the box jellyfish, which gives the animal its name, is cube-like in structure, a clean geometric dome with 4 flattened sides and corners. From each of these corners trail clusters of tentacles, sometimes as many as 15 per corner. Each tentacle can extend over 3 meters in length, giving the jellyfish an invisible killing field that spans a circumference far larger than its visible form. These tentacles are armed with cnidocytes, specialized cells loaded with nematocysts, microscopic harpoons that explode on contact and inject a venom so potent that it can stop a human heart in less than 3 minutes. These stinging cells do not fire indiscriminately. They are triggered by chemical and physical cues, detecting the unique ionic composition of skin, mucus, or fish scales. The venom itself is one of the most complex biological cocktails known to science. It targets the nervous system, muscles, and heart simultaneously, causing intense, searing pain, followed by systemic collapse. In mild cases, stings produce whip-like welts and temporary paralysis. In severe cases, often involving children or those with multiple contact points, the effects include cardiovascular arrest, pulmonary edema, and in the case of Irukandji syndrome, a delayed but excruciating neurological condition marked by nausea, cramping, high blood pressure, and the overwhelming sense of impending death. What's most chilling is that victims often do not see what touched them. They feel the fire, but not the flame. Unlike their larger cousins, box jellyfish are not aimless drifters. They are active hunters, using jet propulsion to move with purpose. Muscular contractions of the bell push water out of the body cavity, propelling the animal forward in short, pulsing movements. But even more remarkable is their sensory capacity. While jellyfish are often thought of as primitive, the box jellyfish possesses something extraordinary for an animal without a centralized brain. Eyes. True eyes. Not just light-detecting spots, but camera-like organs complete with lenses, retinas, and even rudimentary corneas. These eyes are housed in 4 sensory structures called rhopalia, located on the corners of the bell, and each rhopalium contains 6 eyes. Some capable of forming images, others tuned to detect motion or polarized light. It's unclear how a creature without a brain processes visual information, but it does. Box jellyfish can navigate around obstacles, avoid mangrove roots, and even track the movement of small fish. This implies some decentralized processing, a distributed form of intelligence that maps stimuli directly to behavior. In this way, the box jellyfish operates more like a reactive surveillance system than a thinking animal. It monitors, adjusts, and reacts faster than most prey can compensate for. Their preferred hunting grounds are estuaries, shallow bays, and mangrove-lined shores, regions where light penetration is high and small fish congregate in schools. Here, the jellyfish extends its tentacles into a drifting curtain, forming a barely visible net. As fish swim through it, nematocysts fire, envenomating prey and immobilizing them almost instantly. The tentacle contracts, drawing the paralyzed fish upward toward the bell where it is consumed by the oral arms. Soft, ribbon-like extensions that carry food into the gastric cavity. The digestion is external first, then internal and silent throughout. But while they are predators, box jellyfish are also prey, at least during part of their life cycle. The adult medusa stage is only one phase. Before that, they exist as polyps, tiny, stalked creatures anchored to hard surfaces underwater. These polyps asexually produce free-swimming medusae, which mature into adults over several weeks. During these early stages, the jellyfish are vulnerable to plankton feeders, filter-feeding fish, and crustaceans. Even as adults, large sea turtles have been observed consuming them with apparent immunity to their venom. This makes the box jellyfish both predator and prey, a cog in the same food web it silently manipulates. In Australia, seasonal stinger season warnings are now part of coastal life. Net enclosures, vinegar stations, and full-body stinger suits are deployed across northern beaches between November and May. But even these precautions are not foolproof. The box jellyfish's range is expanding, likely due to warming waters and changing coastal ecosystems. Reports of sightings farther south and in previously safe regions are increasing. A reminder that climate change does not just affect the visible, but the invisible too. And yet, for all its danger, the box jellyfish is not malevolent. It doesn't pursue humans. It does not hunt with malice or decision. It is simply executing a biological program, one refined over millions of years, to turn invisibility into inevitability. It floats, because that is what works. It stings, because that is what survives. As the sun begins to lower and the shallows glow gold with refracted fire, the jellyfish retreats to deeper water. Not with urgency, not with alarm. It glides, perfectly translucent, leaving no ripple, no wake, only a thin suggestion of presence. The surface returns to stillness. The beach returns to laughter. But beneath it the death net drifts, the death, because in the ocean, the deadliest things are not those that chase you. They are the ones you never see at all. At the edge of a tide-swept reef, where the seafloor transitions from tangled rubble to fields of seagrass and sponge, the landscape is an intricate collage of motion and stillness. Every rock is suspect, every shadow holds a secret. And here, among fragments of coral and drifted strands of algae, something moves that was not moving a moment before. A shell tilts, a scrap of sponge wobbles unnaturally. But before the mind can process what changed, the landscape resumes its silence. The intruder is gone. Or more precisely, it was never really visible in the first place. Because it was the sponge. It was the scrap. This is not a trick of shadow or shape. This is design, intention, a deception constructed not by genetics alone, but by behavior. It is the handiwork of a decorator crab, one of the ocean's most resourceful illusionists. While many marine animals rely on biological camouflage, some take the concept further. They don't just become their environment, they build their disguise. Among the sprawling infraorder Brachyura, the true crabs, a remarkable group has evolved the ability to modify its body not only through adaptation, but through collection. These are the decorator crabs, and they have turned their carapace into a platform for artistry, subterfuge, and survival. The strategy is elegant in its simplicity. Cover yourself in your surroundings. To do this, decorator crabs use hooked setae, tiny, Velcro-like bristles that sprout from their shell, especially on the carapace and legs. These setae hold pieces of algae, sponge, hydroids, tunicates, seaweed, shell fragments, and sometimes even living anemones. Unlike passive camouflage, where coloration or shape is genetically determined, this is behavioral camouflage. The crab must actively choose, cut, trim, and place its decorations, and it does so with surgical precision. The choice of material is not random. Some crabs prefer toxic sponges or noxious tunicates, not just to blend in, but to repel predators. Others use fast-growing algae, allowing them to regrow their cloak as they molt and change. The sponge crab, Dromia personata, even carves pieces of sponge with its claws, shaping them into portable shelters like tailors shaping fabric. It then carries the sponge on its back, using specialized rear legs, a walking disguise that doubles as chemical armor. This type of camouflage goes beyond visual deception. By cloaking themselves in living or decaying organic matter, crabs may also mask their scent, confusing predators like octopuses and fish that rely on chemical detection. It's a multisensory illusion, visual, olfactory, and even tactile. A predator brushing against a decorator crab may feel sponge or seaweed, not carapace, buying the crab precious seconds to remain undisturbed or to flee. Crabs are not born with these instincts. Juveniles must learn to decorate, experimenting with materials and placement, often comically mismatched at first. But as they grow, their selection becomes more refined, their choices more strategic. Studies have shown that decorator crabs will even remove and replace older, degraded materials with fresh pieces, implying an ongoing, conscious maintenance of their disguise. This is not mimicry by default. It is curation, architecture, decision-making with an evolutionary payoff. And while most decorator crabs operate in the microcosm of tide pools and reef flats, the strategy is widespread across multiple lineages. In the kelp forests of temperate seas, Macropodia species blend seamlessly into the algae they forage among. In tropical lagoons, Camposia retusa covers itself so thoroughly in sponges and coral fragments that its outline becomes an abstraction, a drifting bundle of debris with legs. In the Caribbean, the spider crab Stenorhynchus seticornis can be seen plucking hydroids and carefully pressing them into place, constructing a defense that is both passive and active, invisible and in some cases venomous. But camouflage is only one side of the crab's ecological story. Crabs are also central players in the benthic economy, scavengers, detritivores, algae grazers and predators of smaller invertebrates. Their foraging cleans the substrate, recycling nutrients and regulating populations of sessile organisms. Their burrows oxygenate sediments. Their bodies provide food for countless others, fish, octopuses, sea stars and birds. And yet, despite this centrality, many crabs have evolved to disappear from view, because visibility in most ecosystems is a death sentence. Molting is one of the most vulnerable times in a crab's life. When it sheds its exoskeleton to grow, its new shell is soft, pliable, and defenseless. During these hours or days, the crab is at high risk from predators. Camouflage becomes even more crucial. Some decorator crabs will reapply their disguises immediately post-molt, prioritizing concealment before mobility. Others retreat into crevices or bury themselves in sediment, relying on stillness until their armor hardens. Interestingly, some decorator crabs have taken their strategies into the realm of symbiosis. The Libya crab, also known as the boxer crab, carries stinging anemones in its claws, waving them like living pom-poms to deter predators and stun small prey. In return, the anemones gain mobility and access to food particles. It is a partnership forged not from affection, but from function. One organism weaponized by another in the silent arms race of reef survival. Crabs, for all their armored exteriors, are among the most behaviorally diverse invertebrates in the ocean. They exhibit territoriality, mating dances, tool use, and even complex communication through drumming and claw waving. Their brains are small but efficient, capable of processing visual cues, navigating complex environments, and engaging in problem solving. The decorator crabs elevate this intelligence into a survival strategy that is both flexible and context-dependent. No two disguises are the same. No two crabs build in exactly the same way. Their camouflage is personal, a reflection of their environment and experience. As the tide begins to shift again, the reef comes alive with movement. Fish dart from crevices. Shrimp emerge to forage. A passing wrasser glides over a clump of sponge. But something in that clump shifts. Just a twitch. A pause. Then nothing. The wrasser swims on, unaware that it passed within centimeters of death. The crab beneath it adjusts a strand of algae, pulls it tighter across its back, and settles into the silt once more. Because in the world of predators and prey, sometimes the most successful hunter is not the fastest, strongest, or fiercest. Sometimes it's the one you never knew was there. There are no waves here, only the pulse of suspended silence. The reef lies suspended in the stillness of lagoon water, glassy and warm, where the light penetrates straight and soft, and even the smallest flicker of movement seems to ripple across eternity. In this motionless world, death approaches slowly, not with fury or stealth, but with beauty. It glides through coral pillars like a dancer, adorned with regal frills and ornate stripes, moving as though untouched by urgency. This is the lionfish, a predator wrapped in elegance and illusion. Beneath its flowing fins and painterly patterns lies one of the most efficient killers in the Indo-Pacific, now spreading like a slow poison across oceans it was never meant to rule. A lionfish does not hunt the way most predators do. It doesn't dash or ambush, and it never gives chase. Instead, it floats, arms spread, fins rippling, head steady. Its pectoral fins, wide like a fan of silk, undulate in slow, mesmerizing rhythm. This languid display is not just for show, it is a weapon of distraction. Many reef fish respond to quickness, a sudden lunge, a darting eye, the twitch of a predator's tail. But the lionfish operates below the radar of alarm. It advances with such methodical grace that its approach triggers no reflex, no warning, no run. When it gets close, sometimes within centimeters, it angles its body forward, spreading its pectorals wider to corral the target. Small fish and shrimp, confused by the wall of undulating fins, often freeze or dart in the wrong direction, directly into the lionfish's mouth. Then, with a sudden burst of suction, the lionfish opens its jaws and inhales the prey whole. The entire strike is a vacuum event. The target vanishes, not torn or bitten, but swallowed by negative pressure and muscle control. There is no mess, no struggle, just disappearance. What makes this hunting strategy so effective is that it is paired with a second, more insidious adaptation: venom. The lionfish's body is ringed with 18 venomous spines, 13 along the dorsal ridge, 2 in the pelvic fins, and 3 in the anal fin. Each spine is grooved, connected to venom glands at the base, and capable of injecting a complex toxin composed of neurotoxins, cardiotoxins, and proteins that trigger excruciating pain, inflammation, and in some cases, systemic paralysis. These spines are not used to kill prey. They are not offensive weapons. They are defenses so potent that few animals dare to challenge them. This protection allows the lionfish to hunt in broad daylight, out in the open, without camouflage or cover. In its native range across the Indo-Pacific, the lionfish maintains a balance within the reef community. Predators like groupers, eels, and sharks recognize its warning stripes and generally leave it alone. Prey species have co-evolved alongside it and often keep their distance. But when lionfish were introduced into the Atlantic, likely through the exotic pet trade in the 1980s, that ecological contract collapsed. In the Caribbean and along the southeastern US coast, the lionfish found itself surrounded by prey with no evolutionary memory of its threat. Here, it became something else entirely, a biological wildfire. Invasive populations exploded. Juvenile reef fish populations plummeted. Coral recruitment dropped. In some regions, lionfish have reduced native fish biomass by over 70%. And yet, for all its destructiveness, the lionfish remains nearly untouchable. Native predators in its invaded range do not recognize it as food. Its spines deter even the hungriest hunters. Traditional fishing methods struggle to catch them, as lionfish do not school and often remain tucked into reef crevices. The few that are captured often go to waste, despite the fact that their meat is edible and delicate. Only the spines are venomous. A growing movement to spear, cook, and eat lionfish has emerged as a grassroots conservation tool. But the invasion remains one of the most dramatic examples of what happens when evolution meets an unprepared ecosystem. The lionfish's success, both native and invasive, is built on its ability to deceive. Its warning colors are beautiful, ornate bands of white, red, and black that ripple and flex with each motion. These colors in evolutionary terms are aposematic, a signal to stay away. But in the human eye, they inspire admiration. Divers chase lionfish with cameras instead of spears. Aquariums display them like royalty. But this appreciation blurs the line between caution and curiosity. For those who get too close, snorkelers, fishermen, careless handlers, the sting is a brutal reminder. Envenomation can cause hours of agony, swelling, nausea, and even temporary paralysis. While rarely fatal to healthy adults, the sting is dangerous to children, the elderly, and those with compromised systems. Worse, the spines remain active even after the fish is dead. Still, there is no malice in the lionfish, only function. It does not sting unprovoked. It does not seek to harm what it cannot eat. It floats because that is what works. It kills not because it is cruel, but because that is how it lives. Its beauty is not a costume, but a byproduct of its biology, a declaration of its danger that has, ironically, become its best disguise. In the waning light of the afternoon, as long shadows stretch over the reef and the currents begin to shift with the falling tide, the lionfish resumes its patrol. Its fins flare, its body rocks gently, its mouth yawns slightly, preparing for another slow, deliberate stalk. Tiny fish flicker nearby, unaware. They have no reason to run, because the lionfish does not chase. It drifts. And in the ocean, sometimes the deadliest predator is the one that doesn't look like it's hunting at all. The shallows of a warm coastal flat seem lifeless at midday. The tide has ebbed just enough to leave the sandbars exposed in ridges, where sunlight beats down through undisturbed water so clear it might not exist at all. Gentle waves whisper across the surface, stirring the suspended silt into momentary clouds that drift and settle again. Nothing stirs, no fins, no shadows, and yet, right beneath your feet, a predator waits, pressed flat to the seafloor, cloaked in sediment, concealed not just from sight, but from sound and scent. Not even its eyes betray it. They sit like twin pebbles protruding from the sand, motionless, watching. Beneath them lies the body of a stingray, a master of ambush, a living weapon fused with the ocean floor. The stingray is one of the ocean's most peculiar predators, not for its appearance, though its disc-shaped form is strange enough, but for its strategy. It doesn't stalk, it doesn't chase, it waits. Perfectly still, half submerged in a shallow grave of its own making, the stingray turns the featureless bottom into a trap. With a rhythmic undulation of its pectoral fins, it fans sand and gravel over its back until its body is entirely hidden. The color-shifting chromatophores in its skin assist the illusion, darkening or lightening to match the texture and tone of the sediment. To the untrained eye, to any eye really, there is no animal here. Only sand, perhaps a ripple, perhaps a rock, but absolutely nothing to fear. Until it's too late. Beneath that layer of camouflage lies a highly attuned predator. Stingrays, especially those in the family Dasyatidae, rely on an advanced network of electroreceptors to locate prey. Along their ventral side, the underside pressed against the sand, they house ampullae of Lorenzini, tiny gel-filled pores that detect the faintest electrical signals given off by muscle contractions, heartbeat rhythms, or the soft twitch of a buried mollusk. To a stingray, the silence of the sand is anything but silent. It pulses with invisible signatures. A crab shifts in its burrow. A flounder twitches beneath its own veil. The ray feels it all. Its sensory field extends like a sonar dome, reading the reef floor not in visuals, but in electricity. This allows stingrays to detect prey even when there is no motion, no scent trail, only the nervous system of a creature that doesn't yet know it's being watched. And when the ray decides to strike, the reaction is instantaneous. In a single convulsive motion, it arches its body, explodes from the sand, and lands on its target with the full force of its disc-shaped frame. Invertebrates are crushed, pinned, and consumed. Fish are sucked upward by the powerful buccal cavity on the ray's underside, where rows of flattened teeth grind shell and exoskeleton alike. The strike is silent but devastating. The hunting strike is only one half of the stingray's arsenal. The other, the part most humans fear, lies in the tail. Many stingray species carry one or more serrated venomous spines at the base of their tail, designed not to kill prey, but to deter attackers. These barbs are hardened with vasodentin, a material denser than bone, and each one is lined with venom-secreting epithelial cells. The sting itself is not simply a puncture, it's a ripping event. The barbed spine often breaks off inside the attacker, continuing to inject venom as the tissue swells around it. In humans, this can cause intense pain, tissue necrosis, and in rare cases, fatal injury, especially when struck in the chest or abdomen. And yet the stingray does not seek conflict. Most envenomations occur when a person steps directly on a concealed animal, an understandable mistake, given their ability to vanish into the very ground they rest upon. Coastal regions where stingrays are common now teach visitors the stingray shuffle, dragging feet along the bottom instead of lifting and stepping to give the animal warning. The stingray, true to its philosophy of stillness, usually flees rather than fights. Stingrays are not merely loners of the sand. In certain seasons, some species gather by the hundreds or even thousands in shallow bays to mate or thermoregulate. These mass aggregations turn an invisible hunter into a spectacular sight. Wings layered like fallen leaves, gently rippling in unison with the water's breath. Mating is brief and aggressive, with males biting the edges of the female's pectoral fins before copulation. Females later birth live young, already miniature replicas of the adult form, already equipped to bury, to sense, to wait. The ecological role of stingrays is subtle but profound. As they feed, their undulating movement disturbs the sediment, exposing nutrients and aerating the substrate. This, in turn, benefits countless other species: worms, bivalves, algae, and even the larger predators that follow rays for the scraps they leave behind. In some tropical systems, rays serve as keystone bioturbators, ecosystem engineers that reshape the seafloor with every breath and motion. And yet, their populations are increasingly threatened by habitat loss, overfishing, and bycatch in commercial nets. Their slow reproductive cycle and site fidelity make them especially vulnerable. Like many of the ocean's stealth hunters, they are powerful only so long as their environment remains intact. In the narrative of marine life, the stingray is often eclipsed by flashier predators: the open water pursuit of tuna, the raw violence of sharks, the brilliant disguise of cuttlefish. But none of them can match the stingray's patience, its fusion with the sand, its confidence in quiet. Its strategy is the purest form of the ambush predator's creed. See everything, reveal nothing, strike only once. As the light softens into afternoon gold and the ripples along the reef begin to lengthen, the stingray remains where it has been all day. Invisible, motionless, buried with intent. A juvenile fish flits too close. There is no warning, no rush, no tell. Just an eruption of sand. Then stillness again. The reef exhales, and the bottom remains exactly as it was. Or so it seems. The ocean from above is pure illusion. A seamless veil of reflected sky, seductively open and deceptively vast. But beneath the surface, the game is played on entirely different terms. Light becomes scarce, color fades, and visibility shortens to meters, sometimes mere inches, depending on the hour, the current, or the suspended haze of life itself. In this world of narrowed vision and fractured space, power does not always belong to the biggest, loudest, or fastest. It belongs to the invisible, to the creatures that manipulate light, texture, posture, and perception to rewrite the very physics of visibility. And as we've seen across this journey, the most effective killers in the sea do not scream, they do not charge, they vanish. In the coral flats and muddy seafloors, the stonefish reigns as a grotesque monarch of stillness. Not camouflaged like a rock, it is a rock, down to the mottled crust, the algae beard, the very microbial biofilm on its warty skin. It waits, not because it is patient, but because it doesn't need to do anything else. When the moment arrives, it inhales its victim faster than the victim could have known it was prey. The sting, should you be foolish enough to step on it, is an evolutionary afterthought, a toxin-laced lesson in learning too late. From the labyrinth of reef crevices, the moray eel emerges, not with speed but with silence. It lurks behind coral lips, the shadow in the hole, the guillotine with eyes. Its secret is anatomical, a second set of jaws that strike from within the throat, yanking prey into the dark before the outside world even registers what happened. The eel doesn't leave its lair often. It doesn't need to. It owns the doorway between seen and unseen, and it controls the toll. Then the octopus, the most theatrical deceiver. It doesn't just match its surroundings. It studies them, then recreates them using chromatophores papillae and a mind capable of simulating stone, coral, algae, even other animals. It slides through gaps smaller than its own eyeball, wrapping intelligence and muscle into a single adaptive package. To see an octopus disappear isn't a trick. It's a recalibration of your brain's ability to process what reality should look like. But if the octopus hides, the cuttlefish distracts. Its patterns are not disguises. They're weapons. A hypnotic play of electric bands and chromatic pulses lures prey into range and paralyzes response. Cuttlefish don't need to outrun their prey. They override their visual cortex. It's not a fight. It's neurological seduction followed by precision execution. The saltwater crocodile, meanwhile, uses nothing more than breath and timing. It floats at the waterline, reducing its profile to a pair of eyes and nostrils, the minimum visible signature for a multi-meter predator. Its invisibility is behavioral, not biochemical. It survives by understanding how attention works and how long it takes for stillness to become background. Then it erases the distance between calm and chaos in a single lunge. The box jellyfish is a whisper in water, a spectre suspended between life and optics. Its transparency isn't passive, it's an active form of vanishing. No color, no silhouette, no shadow, just a drifting field of almost nothing, trailing meters-long filaments tipped with death. Its weapon isn't contact but proximity, and it kills because you never saw it arrive. The decorator crabs don't shapeshift. They construct their invisibility. With claws like sculptors' tools, they embed their backs with seaweed, sponge, coral, even venomous anemones. They don't mimic a specific thing. They become a collage of everything, a mobile illusion, forged from 1,000 tiny truths. Then comes the lionfish, whose deadliest tactic is its beauty. It floats like a feathered ornament, slow and symmetrical, hypnotizing prey with slow pectoral sweeps and dazzling patterns. No speed, no chase. Its elegance is the camouflage, and it gets close not by hiding, but by not triggering alarm. Its stillness below the threshold of danger, its strike perfectly timed. Finally, the stingray, laid flat against the bottom, fused with sand and silt. Its electroreceptors read the invisible electricity of prey beneath the surface, striking upward with a surprise attack from below. It disappears so completely into the ground that even experienced divers find themselves startled when one erupts from beneath them. Its tail, armed with venomous barbs, is less about attack and more about consequence, a lesson in respecting what you cannot see. Across all these creatures, the unifying strategy is not aggression, but manipulation of light, behavior, color, and expectation. Some deceive their prey, others deceive their predators. A few do both, but none announce themselves. In the architecture of the marine world, being invisible is not just an advantage, it's an imperative. The open ocean has no walls. Coral reefs have no hiding spots for the unprepared. In such a theater, the best survival comes not from force, but from subversion. And invisibility, as it turns out, is not a singular trick. It's a spectrum. It's the way light bends around the bell of a jellyfish, the way the brain misreads the slow stalk of a lionfish, the way the skin of an octopus seems to forget it ever had a shape. It's even the way an animal moves, or doesn't, the way it times its breath, the way it knows what you'll see and what you won't. It is no accident that these invisible hunters are thriving, even in increasingly fragile ecosystems. Because when everything else in the ocean competes for attention, with color, speed, noise, or brute strength, these predators compete by disappearing. And they win. So when you next look out across a calm tide pool, a reef shelf, or a glimmering estuary and think you're alone, you're not. Something is there. Watching. Breathing. Waiting. Because in the ocean, the most dangerous things are not hidden behind teeth or speed. They are hiding in plain sight. And they've spent millions of years perfecting the art of not being seen.